Good morning, everyone. So, thank you for joining today morning, coming here. Let me introduce the guest of the show. He's Geshe Palden from Nepal. He's so serious. Look at him. So nervous. He's my brother. And we have 5 boys. So I'm the second, and he's the fourth in the family. And at the moment, he is in Kopan Nunnery, teaching the nuns there. And it is his first time outside of Nepal and India. So he and one friend, they have been in States since 24th or 5th of the August, and they will be going back on the 14th of October. So they are for six weeks. So yeah, so that is little bit introduction from my side. And so maybe what I'm going to do is probably we will have I will ask some questions, and we could share some things, stories in the monasteries, about the studies, life in monasteries. And then maybe at the end, I don't know, depending on time, 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe we'll open for the questions if anyone has any questions about anything, except stock market. Okay. So yeah, so that is. So maybe I will start with asking Geshe Palden, at what age you went to monastery?
First of all, good morning, everyone. And my name is Geshe Palden, as he mentioned. It seems that I'm older than him. I'm not older. I'm younger. And I went to monastery at the age of 15 in Nepal.
And which monastery?
Is in Nepal. There is a place in Pokhara, and this is monastery of Kagyu monastery.
And then how did you become, did you decide yourself or your parents sent you to the monastery?
No, actually, I have a friend from our village. We are very close, and he came to Kathmandu early as a nine old. So he became that monastery. He became monk. So when I came from our village at the 13, yes. So we meet, and I asked how is the monk's life, and he is very good. If you are here with me, it is more excited. So excited. So I wanted to be monk, and I request to my parents that I have to be monk. But that's time my parents reject that because that's my brother who is they are doubted that he is living or not in monastery. So parents said that we have a one monk. If there is two monk and both are not going to successful your life in monk, your
You will become enlightened.
No. It is more. It is a problem for you both and for us. So they reject me. So I cried the 3 days. I have to be monk. Then I cried three days.
So
At last, they
accepted.
Accept.
So just give a little bit clarity. I went to monasteries at the age of 8. It was not my decisions. It was my parents sent me to the monastery, at the age of 8. And as Geshe Palden says, when he was 15, at that time I was around 17. I was not happy in the monastery. I went through a lot of struggles. So at least for 2 years. So I've been complaining to my parents that I don't want to be in the monastery. I don't want to continue a monk. So I have been complaining for a while. And because of that, when he expressed he wanted to be a monk, my parents didn't want him to send to the monastery because they thought I might not stay because I have been complaining. And then I would be a bad example for him later, for him to also disrobe. So they didn't want, because if I disrobe, then probably he will also follow me, and thereby he will also disrobe, and they didn't want to see that, and that is why they didn't accept him when he expressed he wanted to go to monastery. But I was very disappointed to hear his answer. He went to monastery, as he said, because one of his close friends went and he met him, and he said when he asked how the life in the monastery, his friend said it's very good. And then if he also join, it will be even more exciting, So I thought he was going to say, I was so inspired by you. I was hoping to say, oh, I want to be a monk because I was so inspired by you. Instead, he said, oh, because you didn't want to go, you are not so inspiring. My parents didn't want him to go. So how many years in Pokhara?
I lived 3 years in Pokhara.
And then
I went to in Sikkim. There is one Sheta means
when they do the philosophy study.
Philosophy study in Kaju sector. Then in 1994, I went to Sera. I joined Sera.
So after Pokhara, which is Nepal, towards west, towards Annapurna regions, mountain regions, one of the favorite tourist destinations known as Lake City, and also a lot of trekking start from there. And our village is also towards that area. So he started there 3 years, and in that monastery, there wasn't much studies. It was more kind of rituals, like many small monasteries in the old times. The monks studies a lot of rituals, and they do a lot of rituals. Not every monastery has really education that provide really studying Buddhist philosophy deep depth, you know. And then he wanted to study more, you know. And then that is when he went to, in India, Rumtek Monastery, Karmaba's monastery. That was the biggest Karmapa monastery, and it was known for the Buddhist studies. And within the Karma, that was the best at that time. And so he went there in 4 years. And then after 4 years, then you left, and then you were in Nepal 1 year or 2 years?
No, only 6 months.
6 months,
Yeah.
okay. So then why did you decide to go to, you studied 7 years in Kagyu Monastery. Why did you decide to come to Sera?
Actually, I went to the Rumdik Monastery, as he mentioned, in Karmapa monastery. Then when they get problem of in Karmapa, then it's not doing the regularly the class. So there are always the problem there is. So I wanted to do study more and regularly. So I decided to went to Sera Monastery.
But if I remember, I don't know whether my memory is correct. I think at the very beginning, you wanted to go to Debong.
Yeah.
You wanted to go to Debong, and when you mentioned that, I said, it doesn't matter. If you want to come to Sera, you can come Sera. If you want to go to Debong, you can go to Debong. It doesn't matter, as long as you get a good education.
Yeah.
And then eventually you came to Sera. So what decide what?
Yeah, first when we were in Rumting Monastery, we went to Drebung at the twice time to 2 times. Then one of our from our village, the senior monk, he always said me that if you wanted to come to Sera or Drebung Garden, you welcome to the Drebung. So if you want to come there, you will be welcome, always welcome. So I didn't know about the Sera because I didn't go Sera that time. So I like to join the Drebung Monastery, but one of our Rinpoche in Sikkim, that he said that it will be good for to join the Sera. And one reason that I have my brother in there, so I joined Sera. Yes.
So how was it easy, difficult, challenging when you were in Pokhara and Rumtek? Was it easy or difficult?
Not easy. When I went to first, and I've been monk. There's no so many monks there. Only like 30, 40, around 30, 40. So we have to lots of work. And before I went, before there is a very good teacher, the ritual teacher. So when I went, then the teacher went to the retreat for three years. So I didn't get a good teacher there. So during 3 years, I didn't get a good teacher, and also I didn't get a more ritual that doing puja like other. So I was. We always going to see movie and then the around the doing hiking. Then I spent my 3 years there like that. Then I wanted to study the philosophy. So at first I wanted to go Namdoling there. You have heard
Namdoling,
Namdoling?
Nyingma
Monastery
Monastery in South
in
India.
South India, near to the Sera. Then I didn't know anyone there. So our one of our head in monastery, he has a friend in that monastery Namdoleng. So I request him that I wanted to go to Namdoleng, so please help us to then join. So he said, okay, I have a friend there. He is very good at doing. He is studying very good, and he is a senior. So I will ask him, and I will. That's time there is no phone, and he will be right later. So after 3 months, he asked me, "You wanted to go or not?" Because if you go there, he is he welcome you because he had writing to that letter. So we have to two, one of my friend, we two decided to go Namdoleng, but he went somewhere and he met his early teacher, his previous teacher, and he said, don't go to Namdoleng. And if you wanted to go out of that monastery, you come to Rumdik. The room they have where because the same the sector, Kaju, there's very good studied philosophy study there. So he didn't like go to Namdoleng. So when I asked to my parents that I wanted to go Namdoleng, that then Namdoleng is very good education there. So again they reject because it is very long way. So you have only one, and you also you can go to Rumdik also because with your friend. So I didn't join Namdoleng. So I went to Rumdik Monastery.
So while you are in, whether it's in Pokhara Monastery or whether it's Rumtek Monastery or in Sera, have you any doubt whether this is your path or not? Whether they have come any time when you don't want to be a monk or not?
No, I I didn't come that isn't monks is not good. I always very interested in monk life. And yes, when I study in I'm studying in Rumding Monastery, I wanted to do. I'm very interested in philosophy, not ritual. I so I joined there. So when problem get that monastery, so I wanted to more educate the monastery. So I decided to go somewhere. So I left their monastery and I went to Sera.
You have any questions to me about me? Do you have any questions or not?
Yeah, yeah. And I like to question the how is about in how life in Kopan, yeah, because when I wanted to become a monk, then my parents condemned me that he's not, yes, they are doubting that he's going to studying or not. So that is why. Oh.
I think many of probably you know, but as I mentioned, like many other monks, I'm the not only one. Many other monks who were sent to monastery at a very young age. Some of them, maybe even at a young age, they wanted to go, maybe whatever reasons. But when you grow up, maybe you might decide this is not my path, and certain doubt, certain struggles. I went through that myself for a couple of years, you know. And I think one of the main struggles for many, including myself, was the discipline. For a young teenager, you can say, 17, 18s, that you have to get up every day morning at 5:30, and throughout the day you don't have much entertainment. Anything is memorizing, going to the puja, going to class, doing the chores, cleanings, helping in the kitchens, cleaning the area, helping in going in the garden and so forth. And then you go in the bed around 10. That's every day, And so, which is not easy at that young age, unless someone has really strong practice foundations, So I think that was one of the struggles, And then also, some of my friends from same area, they disrobe, again, for different reasons. Some of them, they disrobe from their side. Some of them, their parents, family needed their help, so they have to leave the monasteries because they have to take care of their families. They were the youngest, they were the oldest child in their home, and then they needed their help. So for different reasons, and so then I saw them, riding motorcycles with the fancy clothes, and that was the attractions or distractions. As a young kid or teenager, you get attracted to that kind of glamorous kind of, and so I got kind of attracted, distracted. So those are some reasons, factors that I was not so happy to be at the monastery, and I wanted to kind of leave the monastery. I didn't want to be in the monastery. Yeah, so that was, and also at that time, also the many monasteries at the very beginning, and of course, Kopan, when I went, 75, 76, it was still very early stages. They started probably around 70s, And most of the monastery at the early stages, they had a lot of struggles in terms of they didn't have enough financial support. All the Tibetans were very poor. They just escaped from Tibet not long ago. Everyone is trying to struggle to make their life, to find a job. So they couldn't support the monasteries. And then also there was Tibetan Buddhism hasn't gone much outside. And so there wasn't much support. And since there was not much financial support, so the living standards was very, very difficult and basic. Sometimes you get food, with certain amount, whether you are hungry or not. That's all the monastery can give, And it was not nutritious. It wasn't, very basic, and even that you don't get. And there are some what we call Dharma, ritual cake. Normally, you throw it for birds and other animals, but some monks they ate that because they were so hungry. So then there are a lot of many other struggles, but I think more than that struggle, it was that my distractions. But I guess those struggles might have also played a small role.
Yes, that might be because when we went to Sarah first, there was a very struggle in our classmate there. At first, we have a 300 students in our classmate. We think 1 year, half of them went to
Left
because
monasteries.
left monasteries because of their very trouble. They are very they are they didn't get good food and good medicine and good rooms to stay. So they get most of they get ill. The six, yeah, so half of them they left in within 1 year.
So just to clarify or give a little more explanation, he came in 1994 in Sarah. At that time, it has improved much compared to when I was there in 80s. Then compared to earliest in 70s, 60s, when they started, even when he came, it is 1994. Even in that time, the monastery doesn't provide the food unless there's a sponsor for a puja. Sometimes there is a sponsor for a puja for 1 day, 1 sessions, and then sometimes those sponsors can sponsor a food. Sometimes they sponsor tea and bread. Sometimes just a tea, depending on that. So if someone sponsors tea, then everyone gets tea. If someone sponsors tea and bread, everyone gets tea and bread for 1 day, 1 second. If someone sponsors food, they get food for 1. Otherwise, either you have to cook yourself, okay? The monastery doesn't provide you any money and food. Everyone is by on themselves. Either you cook yourself or you can get from the kitchen, but still you have to pay. So you have 2 options: cook yourself or to get the food from the monastery, which you have to pay. Many of the monks didn't have money to cook themselves or to pay. And so that is one thing some monks couldn't afford. Some, like they will take 1 lunch and they will divide, they will half because each of them couldn't afford 1 meal each day, so they will take, for example, one in the lunch, sometimes you have 1 bread, big bread, and then vegetables. So they will take that bread and then they will half, and so that is one of the reasons. And of course, if you get sick, it's on yourself. The monastery doesn't have any resource to do that. Monastery provide the educations, the teachers. Even the place, sometimes you have to manage yourself to stay. And so that was, if you get sick, then of course some monks have family support. Not everyone had that. Not every family can afford to support. They themselves struggling. Some might have some sponsors, sponsors, some Tibetan sponsors or Nepali sponsors, Westerners, but many of them didn't have family support. Many of them didn't have sponsors. So they are by their own, and then they couldn't afford. So that is why so many left. And when you don't have enough food, of course, you are going to get sick because the studies are very rigorous, very rigorous studies. And then without food, forget about good food, but even just very basic, even, so that was the struggle. The struggle at that time, and our time, more struggles. And if you go further, 70s, 60s, the struggle was much more like during our teachers' time, when they started. Despite all their struggles, they continue to study, they continue to graduate, they continue to help. to take care of the monastery, to take care of the monks. As I was mentioning on, Friday during the pujas, one of our teacher who passed away recently, like their generations and even later generations, they taught, 5, 4, 5, 6 class a day, 6 days a week. Every day, 4, 5, 6 class a day. They don't get 1 penny of teachings. They don't get any special treatment, food, anything. And not only that, they teach sometimes even during their off days. Let's say some monks miss the class because maybe they were sick, because there was something happened. So because they are behind, they go and ask, we are a little bit behind with our studies, subjects, and the teacher will even teach during the 1 day off sometime, So that is how much their dedications, their sacrifice towards the Dharma, towards that, They didn't get 1 penny paid for all this. Now some of the teachers, they get a little bit kind of pocket money, started by Lama Sopa Rinpoche, known as Lama Tsongkhapa Fund, teacher fund. With that, they give monthly little bit of pocket money to some teachers now, but that was started much more later, and now, of course, in Sera, all the monks get food because Lama Sopa Rinpoche again started Serache Food Fund because Rinpoche knew how many monks were getting sick because they have good food, how many monks have to leave the monastery because they couldn't afford. So Rinpoche started that food fund, and now in Serache, that. Now, of course, not Rinpoche's, but now in Sera, also Debun and Ganden, also now they have, the monastery provide the food. Now they have enough resource. Now they have enough resource to offer the food for all the monks by the monastery. And also they have a little more resource to offer some help when someone gets sick. They cannot offer all the treatments because there's 4,000, 5,000 each month. So you can imagine if someone get and if their treatment requires so much money, the monastery doesn't have endless resource. And so they will give maybe some percentage, or sometimes they have, under this, they can cover a little bit and that. But again, others you have to manage yourself, but at least they have little help if someone get sick for the expenses, not fully, but little help. At the very beginning, as I said, they didn't have any help with that. So, and that is how this big monastery like Sera Devun Ganden, they have been for more than 600 years now, yeah, 600 years, and how they are able to continue to run, with 4,000, 5,000 monks, 3,000. They don't get any support from the government, they are by their own, because it's run, as I said, all the teachers, they give their whole life without being paid anything, totally dedicating themselves. All the staff who run the monasteries, the manager, the crew, in every department, they give their whole life service to that, to run the monasteries. They don't get 1 penny. Nowadays, I think maybe they give very small amount of pocket money, but earlier, they don't get 1 penny. Everything is volunteer, and Some of them give their whole life, some of them have 20 lives, some of them 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 15 years. So that is how the monastery is able to run and functions without, like here in university, as we see, even in some of the private based university, when the government is going to cut the federal support, their struggles. Even though they charge for the students, there no one gets charged 1 penny. Okay, there's no government support, nor federal government, nor state government, no support. So if that is not, how can they function to run that kind of institution for more than 600 years for so many? And that is because everyone's give themselves. And even the teachers, Rinpoches, Geshes, others, even they go outside, to teach overseas and that. And whatever money they get, also they support the monasteries. They don't need to support it, but that is what they feel, that they feel that this is their responsible to give back and to support so that the monastery, the educations continue to run. And so that is how, despite all these struggles, the monastery has continued to sustain so far, So yeah, so those are the little bit of the struggles of the monastery, especially at the very beginnings, yeah. So when did you graduate? How many years did you study in Sera?
From 1994 to 2016. I graduated 2016.
So how many
22 or 23.
So he studied 23 years to graduate as a Geshe Haramba. And then you went to Gyume Tandri College?
Yeah, for one year.
And then after that?
Then I went to Rumdik with Kamaba's monastery to teach there. So I stayed there for 3 years. Then I came to Koban Nanari. Now it's my 4th year in Koban Nanari.
So why did you leave the Rumdek Monastery and came to Kopan?
Actually, when I was in Rumdik Monastery, at first the Kembo of monastery requested me to come there because I was there at first. So I decided to come there for only three years. I said them to I will see 3 years, then I will see what happened. So when I stayed there 3 years, my father got illnesses. So there is we have a brother in Kathmandu, but no, they have on their family, so they didn't stay with the whole day with the father. So I decided to come to look up my father. So I come from there. So I stay with father in Kathmandu for 1 year. So when I stayed there, and Rumbache and Sobormuche and Kembo, then the Kopan Kembo, about Kembo, is they said that it come to the Kopan Nanari. But I said there in Sera, most of they have very trouble, they struggle, they have to struggle. But for myself, I don't have to very much struggle because he was there and he supported me a lot, very lot. So I don't have to struggle for myself. But the most of our colors, they have struggled very, very, very lot.
Yeah, I think, again, when I went into Kopan, as well as in Sera, as I mentioned, we went through a lot of struggles. Again, as I mentioned, our struggle is nothing compared to the struggle faced by our teachers. And but still we had struggles. So when he came, I want to make him a little bit easier so that he can have. Of course, I didn't have resource to do that, but at least I asked my brothers who have resource to do that. Of course, he would be shy, embarrassed to ask for support, just as I will be shy to ask for myself, but I can ask for him, so I told my brothers, that if he can to help to have a room, the Kamsen, which is like the hostel, they were building a room, and then, if my brother can help to sponsor one of the room, and then, he can stay by himself without having to share with other monks and without having to kind of move all the times. Like those other rooms, you have to share with others. Not only you have to share, you have to rotate, move, every year at different rooms and other rooms, like that. And so, and then of course, as long as he's there, he will use that room. And then once he left the monastery, the content will use, it is theirs, So I asked my older brother to help, and he was very kind, generous to support him. So he had his own room, small room, but he has his own room. And then, of course, also for food, he didn't have to struggle for like others. So in that way, it was a little bit easier for him compared to many others, because he has the family support. Not everyone has that kind of family support. So how is the life in Kopan Nunnery now? And let's talk about about Kopan Nunnery, their educations, and what you teach, and how many. Actually, let me ask that: how many Gishima are there in Kopan now? From Kopan,
What 20 Geshimas in that. The
so
first, yeah. The first years they have two Keshima. Then second year they have five, four, about seven, seven, six, seven, six. Now this year they have 10, 10 Keshima
coming up.
coming up, yeah.
So in Kopan, we have monastery and nunnery, at different places. But the education is same, provide the same, in terms of modern educations for the young nuns. They have same as in the monastery and the young. They have modern education for the young ones, just like in normal schools, and some of the exam at the grade 8, 10, the exams come from the government. And so the certificate is accepted by the government. In case any of the young monks, nuns, after they decided maybe this was not for them, and if they want to have so they can continue their education and go, that during our time, we didn't have that. A lot of them didn't have that. And then also they both have a education for, Geshe or Geshe-ma's program. So the monks Geshe's program, as well as for the monks, the nuns Geshe-ma programs. So they have same educations. And as Geshe Palden explained, that now there are over 20 nuns who have graduated fully as a Geshe-ma. And so, how many nuns at the moment?
About 350. All. Yeah.
And then, can you explain the daily schedules every day, how they start?
Well, in Nanda, their schedule is very tight because they have to wake up early in 4:30 in the morning because they have to daily they have to do puja at 5 a.m. and then 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Like 7:30 or like every day.
Yes. Can you hear?
The
You can talk.
5 to 7:30. Then they have to go to then from 8 to 8:30 they have to memorize the textbooks. Then 8:30 they have to go school. The younger they have to modern education school. Then all till 2 p.m. Then after that 2 p.m. they have to go philosophy class, and 5 to 6:30 they have to debate doing debate, and then they have break only 1 hour for dinner. After that they have to again debate class. That is so very tight the schedule here. Yeah. For the senior non, they don't have much class because they didn't have a modern education. That time they have only philosophy class, debate class. Now they are the school who attend school from school. They have very tight schedule. So sometimes they're getting very tired, and so why some nuns are not willing to come, willing to stay continuously.
Yeah, I think some of you already know, but those who are studying to the program for the Gishi or Gishimas is the way the studies are, is a lot of debate. That is one main form of studies. Of course, you get a teaching from your teachers, and even in the teachings, when you get teaching from your Tibet, caution is always encouraged. Debating with the teacher is always encouraged. The teacher want you to, debate with them. That if the student think the teacher explanations, interpretation is wrong or cannot sustain, doesn't have a reason and logic, they are encouraged the students to actually debate with the teacher. So that is how it's, and not only that, then when you have the class, then in the class, debate morning class, evening class, then all the classmate comes, for 1 hour sometime, that you have debate between one-to-one persons, individuals. So each one can choose, so I want to debate with you, or can you be my debate partners? And then if other accepts, they will make different, and then they will debate on the subject they are studying, you know. And then after 1 hour, sometimes then we have little prayers, and then that might change. Then there is class debate. I think the class debate is first. Then in a class debate, everyone sits in circle, depending on how big the class are. If the big class is very big, then they might make few groups, each of them 20, 15 of them. And then one or two will volunteer to answer. Then one or two will volunteer to get up and start asking questions. And then everyone can either support who is debating or who is answering. And so that is form of how studies. So it is always encouraged to debate with the reason and logic. Is not about, oh, Buddha has said this, Nagarjuna said this, my teacher says that. I have to be able to, whether Buddha said, whether Nagarjuna said, whether my teacher said, I have to be able to, if I believe that is to hold my point, that where others will try to prove that is wrong by a different reason and logic. If I cannot withstand those reason and logic, then I have to give up, or this is not the right understanding, or is not the right. Even if Buddha said, even if Nagarjuna said, even if my teacher said, even I think it, because that cannot hold the reason and logic. It goes against reason and logic. So that is one of the main way of how you studies in that. And so it is debating and analyzing and cautioning, and it's always encouraged, always encourage that you should caution, that you should analyze all the time, and especially with the reason and logics, so that is, yeah. And then, okay, I don't know whether I have any other question myself. You have any questions? Otherwise, we open. 可以，挺好的。政务控制，我们的保证。
Yeah. I I'm not sure because I didn't I heard from other people that he had very good philosopher in Sera. He was, but he didn't been a Geshe Laramba. Yeah. I didn't be Geshe Laramba. He didn't be Geshe Laramba, and I heard that he's very good study and philosopher. But then why didn't you Geshe Laramba?
Because I'm lazy. As simple. Well, even after you finish your studies, to become Geshe Laramba, you have to give 6 more extra exam and 6 more years. It is not that you have not finished study, that you review through the whole study that you have already finished. So you have already finished the whole studies, but if you want to be a Geshe Laramba, then again you have to go through 6 more years of studies and exams. And during those 6 years, now it has changed a little bit, but it is reviewing what you have already studied for how many years you have studied before. And at the very beginning, now it has changed a little bit. When during our time, most things that you review is Vinaya and Abhidhamma Kosha. Vinaya, we study main 5 subjects. And Vinaya is more to do with the, the rules, um, precepts, rules uh, for the lay practitioner, for the monks, nuns, different level of, like novice, full ordination in between. So each of them have their own precept rules. So it's extensive studies and also is kind of reviewing that very much, studying that very much. And Abhidharma Kosha is more, of course it's cover a lot of subjects, but also is about, cosmologies and all from Buddhist point of view and other subjects. One, I think I wasn't so interested in those subjects that I want to spend so much time just reviewing that. I think that was one time. Now, they have, they review those two subjects. Now they actually reviewed of all 5 subjects. I was more interested in Madhyamika and, that subjects and Pratna Paramita, Parchin. But at that time, they don't review that much during those years. Now they do. And so if this was the case, maybe I might be interested to go some more years to do that. And for me, when I first went to Sera, I wasn't really planning to be a Geshe. I just wanted to go there, study until Madhyamika, that subject, and then, that was all my goal was. My goal was not a big, I had no goal of becoming Geshe. But once I'm there, I study and my teachers encourage me to finish the studies because you are already there. And so then I continue the studies and then, so then that is, I went with the first exam of the Geluk exam. And then I was getting ready for the second exam, second year. Then, I had the opportunity to have a other Geshe, kind of earlier, Lama Sopa Rinpoche gave me a letter saying, and so with that letter, and the monastery gave me a Geshes. And so then I decided to, and also actually at that time, the airport actually asked me to take Geshe Haramba because exceptional, there's exception Geshe Haramba. Then I saw the airport, no, I'm not going to do that because I haven't done all the studies that much. So actually I asked for a Geshe Karamba, but the airport gave me Geshe Choramba. So that was the reason. Basically being a little lazy, not wanting to study so many years again.
And I think he's the shortest. He is quickest Geshe in maybe in Seraya in 11 years.
No, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'm the quickest. I
We
think
took 22 years. Only in 11 years? Oh.
no, not 11.
No.
87 completed 1990. It's 99 when I graduated. And then, and because I studied in Kopan for that Geshe, same Geshe program, So when I went to Sera, I didn't start from the very beginning, I already, because I've studied many of the topics, like when I was in Kopan, we were on 7 or 8 year of Geshe program, because we were in what we call Suku, we were studying Dura, Pachin, Shungsan. Yeah, I was in 7 years of the Geshe program. So when I went to Sera, I gave some exams, not reading exam, like the debate exam. And then based on that, then you can jump to some classes because you have already studied that at that time, you can jump. So that is what I did. The other Geshe who was with me today, he's not here. We went together from Kopan to Sera, but he didn't jump. So then I think, he started from the very beginning. Also in Kopan, he was not same class. He was a little lower class. And so, but in Sera itself, that is how many it takes. But like I did 7 years in Kopan before I went to Sera. And then of course in Sera, our class was a little bit kind of shortened than some others, for very reason. Normally when you come to certain class, 2 class come together, and if you do that, then the upper class have to stay 1 more year. We didn't have to do that. We didn't have to stay there. Then because in Tibet there were 13 classes, and since they established in India, there's only 12 classes, and they wanted to establish 13 classes. And so to do that, then they started to send some class a little bit quicker, and we were in that stages where our class was sent. So because of that, it got a little bit shortened, by a couple of years. Yeah.
So I have one question.
We are brother, but we didn't spend so much time. Okay, just let you know. Like I went at the age at the monastery, and he was with my parents in the village until 13. And then he came to Kathmandu and went to school, and so we didn't meet hardly much during those, And then he went to different monasteries. By the time he came to Sera, he came 94, and I left 2000, So of course we meet time to time, but like we didn't study all our year of Geshe in same monastery. So some of those questions, I think maybe some of my questions were that I wanted to know myself. Okay. And I guess question was some similar, maybe, I guess. So what was the next question?
For myself, this is my first outside of India and Nepal, and also US, and also my first truck to like here, because I only teach in nunnery and like monastery. So brother, I stay in monastery Kopan, and for here many years. So I wanted, I would like to question, how is the different to teach in uh, East and Western? Yeah.
uh, well, of course, there are some, in East, I think many of them have grown out of many of the concepts culturally, and then especially you are teaching to monks and nuns, many of those Buddhist concepts, reincarnation, karma, and guru devotion, or many of those things, it's easy for them. Easy for them is because they grow up in that kind of culture that they have here, and also it's easy for them to kind of, relate, easy them to, so it is not so difficult to teach those subjects, Whereas for the Westerner, these are some of the very difficult subjects, because sometimes you want to be in the West, you want to be noise, everything proven by scientific. Unless it's proven scientific, a lot of people are not open, And there are a lot of things that sometimes science doesn't know at this point. We don't know at this. So many things. Science is discovering so many things every day, every year, every month, every year, every decades, every centuries. And that's what we keep on discovering more and more about our mind, about the outside world, about so many things, health and so many things. But sometimes our mind gets stuck, unless proving is, instead of, let's say, being more open, sometimes people get, if it's not proven, then it's not there. Because you can't say if it's not proven, it isn't mean there. It has not just discovered. It might be discovered, So that is one more challenging, I think that in that. And I think, and from one point is more challenging, another point is very helpful for myself, when people cautions. In that part, maybe they might not caution that. But here people are different perspective because so they have more cautions, and that with that caution allow me to investigate myself and think out of the box. And when I started to think out of the box and trying to, I grow myself, I learn myself more. I explore more. I discuss more with other friends about those subjects. I try to analyze myself many times, think about over it. I read more and trying to think, go through those cautions. So again, it has, good side too in that way. Personally for myself, and I think also one of the difference is for the Westerners, whatever you teach, I think it's not only Western, I think the modern world now, you have to teach in a way they can relate in their everyday life, in their everyday life and day to day, they don't think so much about futures, enlightenment, future life is not, how does it help me in this life now? How does it help me in? So that is different approach. In the Eastern, is more about, it's not about how it helps you now. It is about how it helps future lives. How does it lead you to more enlightenment? So which are talking more long kind of distant kind of thinkings, So if you see many of the Lamrim and others, for some Westerner, it might seem a little bit too harsh, sometimes because it's based on, it doesn't matter whether it doesn't help you now or not. It doesn't matter whether even if it hurt you now, as long as it's help your futures. That's their thinking. Future life is more important than this life. And the nirvana and fully enlightened more important this and that. So that is that way of thinking. Here it feels like people, I don't care about what futures. I need something tangible. There's something I can feel, something I can relate now. I think those are different people's needs or people's interests, and maybe I guess you have to, like if you read traditional teachings, about some of the benefit, even like shamatha or meditations, they don't talk about if you meditate, you will be less stressed, you can decrease your stress, you will feel this. If you see traditional, that you don't see that about that. It always talk about if you meditate this, then you overcome the delusion, then you will reach the nirvana, enlightenment out of samsara. But for modern world, now you can't talk that at all. You have to talk about how it helps your health, how it is your emotional health. So, immediately. You know, they want something immediately, and so therefore the focus become, so that changes also. You know, I think those are some. But basically, we all are human beings in samsara. We all have the same delusions, same attachments, same ignorance, same angers, you know, same disappointments. And that is every part of the world you go. You know, people ask me, well, you have gone to so many different places and people, and what do you see differences? And I say, basically same. We all have the same issues. We all have the same struggles. We all have the same problems. We all are dealing with those afflictive emotions, negative emotions. And basically, if you go to the very root, it's the same. Any part of the world you go, you know, of course. Yeah. Um, Any questions, please? Yes, can you pass here? And you can ask to any of us.
I actually have more of a comment and a shameless plug. When I studied at Kopan and took refuge there in 2015, I had the privilege of visiting the nunnery several times. And it's an amazing place. And I can't tell you how beautiful the nuns are, the little ones, the girls, and how inquisitive and how open, and it's just a magical place. And I've been a sponsor for many years. And I just want to encourage people, if you're so moved it's very easy to be a sponsor. You just sign up, and it's a monthly donation out of your bank account. You don't even have to think about it. And girls are so disadvantaged in Nepal. And I think particularly the nuns, compared to Kopan Monastery, which is pretty well, let me just say the nunnery is under-resourced. So if you're so moved, and if you want to know more about it, there you have a website through Kopan, and you can learn more about it.
Thank you. Yes, here. No.
Do the two of you debate?
We don't debate. Maybe because maybe on the online they don't hear. We don't debate like the way we debate in the monastery, but sometime when I have some questions regarding certain points, I ask, you know, some other geshes. Sometimes I ask him. Sometimes I even ask some of my students who are geshe now, you know, what do you think about this, you know, about this particular subjects or issue that sometimes I don't have so clarity or not so sure this. And then they will give me answer, including my brothers and some. And then if I'm not satisfied, then I will debate, you know, say, it doesn't satisfy. That answer doesn't satisfy. So I will give why I'm not satisfied. And then he or others will again give me answer their point of view. So in that way, we debate in that way, not like a formal, like in the monastery when one get up and one stay, but we do debate when I have some issue. I ask him and then he gives some answers, and sometimes it makes sense and I accept. Sometimes it doesn't satisfy me. I think I don't agree with that. So then I will point my point of view and back and forth in that way. You have anything to add? Yeah.
Okay, so this is maybe for both of you. Just living in this Western world and having children, and now my children are young adults, right? So they're off on their own, and that was quite a transition for them to leave the home. How was it to be away from your like family unit? Did you just bond with your classmates and things like this? Like, how was that for your mom and dad, or for you with your mom and dad, like being away from them?
더 불안도 단다 걸 보고든 전부 자제다 나네 그 소수 된다고 된다도 마다 보고 날 거래 그런 거 뭐랑 날 거네 그래서 아껴도 중중 간다 공부를 친다 파마는 넘도 명세 강에 테마 소에스 파마 바람도 보고 중중 간다 늘 당제대 강에 테 그런도 강에 테마 말레스 근데 좋아 근데
Sorry for for my poor English. So he will be translate.
But you have to pay me for that. I will charge. I'm in America now. So I will charge by hour.
I will give in Nepal. Tene kanga das le ne yora ta kanga yode yora ta ne pama den joye nang zo ba kase pa de konzo be kade ne tengi do la je nang zo sule de be konzo je dang da gen la na shi tang bo nam dol le dong le de tene ma ta de konzo be 다른 거 자체 다른 거 자체 tene konzo 다른 거 ina tene konzo tenji dige tang yo mar nga ji bo tang yo mara tene ma tang we zan de yor de ina ya konzo ki tam 제만 가서 가와야도 되는 가와야도 가와에 부든지 가와 땅에 야살했는데 혼자 소소기 뇌당제 다 되는 땅 먼저 이내 배 된다 소소 파마레디 배 가딘 쳐보시고입니다 배 다딜라네 두고지랑 먼저 빨라마 싫어 베코니 싫어 투모메디 참살라 세라라테네 밀람라 빨라마 배 가서 투보시에 밀란되는 거 마목 문용을 아다 되는 문용을 이나야 소속의 냠도 되다 봐이나 근데 소속의 미세다 조당다 되메바 인산도 소속을 당이나 세월에도 샘데 돈에 아다 세월 제바이나 근데 가와되네 아다 지금 이제 상도 있어요.
So Geshe Palden says, of course, every parent will miss their children. Every children will miss their parents. Of course, there is that, because of that, when he had the thought of going to Namdoling Monastery in South India, my parents was not open because it's too far away from them. That shows that they miss and they didn't want the children to be too far away. So they don't want their children too far away because that means they will not be able to see them often, and they miss that. That is one reason why they didn't want. But despite that, they thought of the child more than themselves. They think what is the best for the child, and if they go far away, even they will be missing, even it's hard for them, but since it will be best for the child to get that kind of educations, and even that means the parent will not see them often, and very far away, and they will miss. Despite that, they are willing to give up their own well-beings for the betterness of the child in long term, and so that, and of course, from his side also, he missed them, as he said, every child, miss because the parent has been so kind, in upbringing and taking care of you, in that way, you feel that kindness and you feel their love and that. And so definitely being far away from them will be not easy and difficult. And Palden was saying, you know, when he was in Sera, you know, sometimes he dreamed of, you know, the parent, you know, kind of struggling and kind of, you know, in a disharmony, you know, among themselves. And then when he had that dream, he started to cry because, like every child, they want to see their parent always, you know, in a good relationship. And when you have such a dream of that, they are fighting with each other in a dream, and again, that shows that you miss them because of that, you want to. So that's yeah. And again, I think it's more or less same. Yeah. Page to page. So I can say same. Yeah.
Thank you, Geshe.
And as to your questions, you know, I think Geshe Palden spent more time with my parents than me, you know. He was with them until 13 in the village, and then until 14, he was more, even when he was in Pokhara, you know, it was much closer and they had more access, a little bit relatively. I spent less, you know, and I went to monastery much younger, you know. But again, you know, I think as you mentioned, you know, there are so many other monks same age or around that age, and you mingle, you know, and then slowly your own teachers, senior become your own parent, you know. They are biologically not your parent, but you know, spiritually and in terms of looking after, taking care of you, you know. And of course, you do miss your biological parents, you know. Especially, I mentioned before, you know, especially as a young child, kid, you play with your friends and you forget, you know, about a lot of things is, you know, but then there are times when you see someone's parent visiting them, then it reminds you of your parent, and then that you start to really feel, you know, miss them, you know. But like, it's not like you are missing them every day, every week, every month, because you get in your own life with that, and a lot of time you forget. But then suddenly someone's parent comes, someone's family members come to visit them, and then it reminds of your own parent. It reminds, and your parents not there, your family is not there, and then you started to miss, you know. So that kind of yeah, that kind of experience.
Thank you so much for this discussion. And Geshe, for having not left Nepal or India, your English is very good. And I'm curious, is Madhyamika Buddhism still on the rise in the West? And are the monasteries and nunneries in Nepal and India preparing Geshe-las and Geshe-mas for teaching in the West?
Tensa oda nyama ina oda di yomara, the sara, bina sara chewena, oda sara la nyama inji da, oda tsirik da, tene yomara. Ta tensa cho tingdu mi dan tumbi chane, tene ta cho oda nyanzo la yama chere to oda tsirik tome da. Tene cho tene tsirik da, tene nangcho ni, tene di che to, tene cho kyangoro mi cheke, ta nyama ni songo na 어떤 줄을 유리되나요? 어떤 체리 제거에다 체리돈 유리 제거에다 근데 인지든 저야 어떤 공부가 되지야다 로중 된데 그 로중 된저 차단 제거에 대 어떤 디레스 디조조도 즉 어떤 공부를 지금 많이 봐 소속이 지금 많이 봐미 땡되도 준비 땡되기 전에 전에 시행 된저다 냠도 어떤 챌린지 어떤 부에게 나오셔도 어디 생리통에 어디 댕주도 좀 어떤 나오셔도 어디 되지고 그래서 대체로 어떤 냐마다 메다 같아서 또 고마가 가와 있네요. 어디 열게 줘야 어디 안도 고반 안에 고바 있네요. 다 안에 고바 있는 댕되게 디치 제데 어디 제마 콘도 가와 되네요. 어디 민념도 어디 계시면도 민념도 어디 제레제다 어디 대체도 어디 소소대 어디 대체도 소소 지구 많이 봤죠. 어떤 소소 지구 많이 봤죠. 어떤 냠도 지내제다 로좀도 어떤 지내제다 어디 대체도 어디 대체고 그래서 어디 말해.
어제도 부르다. So, Geshe Palden is saying, of course, most of the monasteries, nunneries nowadays, they are being trained in their education, through educations, that they can share their knowledge and wisdom in the rest of the world. That's why not only they study the Buddhist philosophy, but they are also studying the languages. The languages, most monasteries now, they're teaching languages, not only other languages apart from the Tibetan and whatever their individual languages, as well as they are giving modern educations and including sciences. Even like nowadays when you give an example, Geshe Harambas or even Geshe in the monasteries, not only you have to give those exam, Buddhist philosophy, but also science is part of the exam too. They are learning about the science they learn is not like in normal education, but like science, those is a science, but which are more related with the Buddhist, about some sciences that's related to emptiness, impermanent, or those things, so that where some of the Buddhist subjects can be compared with the science and then explain what the science says, what the Buddhist says, and what they concord or what. So in that way, so that then the people can understand better because of their background in science, so they might be able. So those are kind of part of the curriculum now, and of course, His Holiness Dalai Lama's advices and visions that he have said, that the knowledge and the knowledge that can be helpful from the Buddhists or even non-Buddhists, that we should try to share to the rest of the world. And so he has encouraged the monastery, even the big monasteries, to implement and study of those science. And so those has been that. And so definitely, so they have been trained to share their knowledge and the wisdom and the experiences just beyond about their own people, but outside of that, wherever there is interest, wherever there is needed. And yeah, I think definitely I would say my understanding, my observations, my impressions is definitely Buddhism in general and Mahayana Buddhism is spreading and flourishing more if you compare to 50 years ago. Not only in the West and different parts of the world where the Buddhism was not part of their cultures bringing. But even in many of the part of the, like even let's say Nepal, many parts of Nepal, Himalayan regions, many parts of India, Himalayan regions, Bhutan, Mongolia, many, China, you know, where it used to be Mahayana Buddhist traditions. But, you know, their understanding of Mahayana is very limited. It's more kind of culture and kind of, but their really understanding is very limited because they didn't have much qualified teachers to be able to explain them depth in essence. They were more like, you know, doing rituals are being performed. When they need them, they ask someone to come in, monks or another lamas come and do the rituals at different events, different occasions. But in terms of understanding what really Buddhism is, the core, there was bad limitations, like even my parents at the very beginning. But after what happened in 59, when the Tibetan had to escape, so all the lamas from all the lineage, you know, escaped. And they were based in India, Nepal, Bhutan, and many parts of it. And then once they came there, you know, then they started to establish monasteries, not only establish monasteries, they started to establish education monasteries, where not just rituals, but really studying the Buddhist philosophies, studying the Buddhist practice, more depth in that. And so now there's so many teachers who are able to explain those in more depth in their own language, in those different part of the supposedly even the Mahayana Buddhists that. And so I think that my parent generations, understanding Buddhism has improved a lot in the last 20, 30 years, because now they have a good teachers who can explain them very well in the language they can understand. And so that is, you know, so in that way, you know, it has, Buddhism has revived, you know, in those areas, revive and flourish, not only where it hasn't reached before, but also even though where they were Buddhist itself. So, yeah. And there is also Alex there. So, yeah.
Thank you so much to our online community. Christina had 2 questions. Then we'll take Alex, and then we'll come back for yours, Adam. Thank you so much. Christina's questions were number 1. Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche mentioned during his time as a young monk, literacy was discouraged and also seen as too worldly. How have thoughts about literacy changed in time? What have been the impacts, pros and cons? That's one of our questions.
You know, I mean, it's for someone who is really seriously studying and trying to really dedicate their life in meditation and practice. Many of the studies, such as medicine, astrologies, and grammar, and those are discouraged because they say there will be distractions. If you started to learn astrology, then you spend so much time on that. If you started to learn about poetries and grammars, all you will be spending so much time. So then you wouldn't have enough time to really meditate and really study the very that. And so that is why, like in the past, sometimes they were discouraged, you know, but again, it depends time, monastery to monastery, it depends teacher to teachers. It depends, it is not always that. In some monastery, they teach poem, they teach grammar, they teach medicine, they teach astrologies. Some monastery, they don't do that. Some teacher encourage, some teacher doesn't encourage. in terms of individuals, some people would like to study those things. Some people think it's a distraction. They don't want to study because that will be distracting. That is not something they are interested. So Rinpoche explaining just one part of that where it is not like that is generalized everywhere, because some teachers, some monasteries will encourage, and they actually have even curriculum to study astrology and medicine and literature and all of that. Yeah.
And then Christina's second question is related to that, and you've answered some of it, but I just want to read it. Christina said, there is a tradition of specific teaching methods from the time of the Buddha, memorization, debate, logic, etc. Do you feel there's an opportunity to embrace some of the insights and best practices from modern education, pedagogy, and research?
What is pedagogy? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, like many other things, Buddhism has evolved, and it should evolve with the times. Like everything, for the survival, for the improvements, for the flourishings, you have to adapt to the changes. And you have to learn the changes and adapt to that, And so same thing, certain teaching techniques, certain things might be maybe outdated, and then there might be certain techniques, certain things that the modern world can offer that, and which like many monasteries are doing that, at the very beginning, most monasteries teaching English was taught bad, it would discourage, but now all the monasteries are teachings, almost all the monasteries are teaching English, because it's the language that you can communicate with the rest of the world, and so therefore it has changed. And same things, teaching Buddhist philosophy for even in that one was not so prevalent like now in many monasteries. Many monasteries, they were more into rituals. But now more and more monasteries are actually teaching Buddhist philosophy, even a small monastery, most of them. So in that way, there is a changes happening with the time and in the needs of at that time. And so therefore, definitely there can be many teaching method and other techniques and other things that can be integrated, that can be learned from the modern, and I'm sure the younger generations, the younger generation or the Geshes, Geshimas and others, they will be more experts to be able to use more technology, for the teaching, as a tools. My generations and older generation, we are not so great adept at that, I still am more traditional, teaching style. But I think the younger generation will be more good at technology, using the technology, presenting PowerPoint and other things. I do sometimes feel like wanting, but like it is another skill that you need, and you need to learn, and there are times when I want to do that, and there are times when I think, do I really want to do that or not? But then younger generation, they grow up with all this, how to use technology better, and therefore them it become very easy.
We have a question from Alex.
Yes, please.
So you mentioned Madhyamaka and Prajnaparamita, and I know a little bit of what Prajnaparamita may be because of the prayer that we say. What is Madhyamaka?
Yeah. So there are 5 main subjects, and Madhyamika means middle way. So it is the view, the different view or doctrine of the Buddhist philosophy about impermanent emptiness, what emptiness is, that view. So different school of thoughts within the Buddhists have different view what emptiness is about, And so it is studying on that, especially on that with what each school says, and especially what the middle way schools like Nagarjuna and his followers, his disciples, what they talk about, what they do say about that, and also is studying very depth on that, what does Mayana school says, what does Sautandrika middle way school says, what does the Prasangika middle way school says, and comparing them and which one make more sense and discussion among them and all of that. That is what we study in Madhyamika, especially studying Nagarjuna's writings, Chandrakiri's writing. Chandrakiri wrote a commentary to Nagarjuna's, and then others, Buddha Palitas and Arya Devas and many others, and then there are commentaries written by the Tibetan master on those Indian master like Lama Tsongkhapa and Lama Tsongkhapa disciple and many others. So those are the study we study Madhyamika. It's 3 to 4 years of that studies, and then Prasanaparamita, Prasanaparamita is we study about the mainly root text is, materials, ornament of the realizations. So that is the root. And then there's many commentary by Indian masters and then Tibetan masters. And in those studies, you learn about the different paths, different bhumis, and part of those paths and different bhumis, then about the method about loving kindness, compassions, bodhicittas, and all other practices related to what we call method. So Parchin, we call Parchin in Tibetan, which is paramita. That one is more to do with the wisdom part of the, method side of the studying and practice. Madhyamika is more the wisdom side of the practice, studying and practice. Yeah. Okay. Is there one that will be last? Yeah.
So this question is from Adam Baker. Thank you, Adam. Adam asks or says, it sounds like Geshe Palden studied in different schools of Buddhism. So there's two questions here in this. Were there a lot of differences between the traditions? That's one question. And then did Geshe Palden feel that you had a strong connection with the Galupa tradition?
지다 어다 집어 가서 어다 가주단 줄로다 가리네 가주단 줄로와 가리네 데 다 타마타마데 집어래 당가서 되는 대화 먼저 강 되데 되바데 라이당 미데바데스네 가네지네 되는 매버서 그래서 먼저 되네 냥모드네 가르메 가네 매버서네 되네 세대다 세치만니가 보다 간에전에 기부 속에 되려다 이나야 대시당달라 소소 달라메 규바다 되는 미더고 그네 거랑 냠녀도 도베고네 소소 메삼바 소소서 바인잔테네 라마 소소소소 냠내제네 되는 규바 미더wen도 소소 냠내나 소소 냠뇽도네 되네 거기 삼로동당당 어디도 또스 미러 여러 뭐지 뭐네 바 소도 어떤 건지 냠모든 좀 매버서네 Tene nganzo doya ki, tene tse di dang, tse chima dang, oda nyima re re ki, tene soso mise la kiba kane yongya dang, oda di che do re, oda di mato, oda chikba ina ya korang nyamnyo dang de be to, nyamnyo do to be kone lama gyuba dang, degi chene, nyamnyo do to be kone soso she dang dang, oda korang samlo tong dang de she dang dang, cho dang de tos tos mi do go chen, di yore es, oda di yore es chik che da, tene nipa de la, 다 믹스해서는 제 nga karsana so kadin chesho de da nga gilu thone ni de karsana nga tos tanda ngarang lo to she yo da je da nga tong ga ju re de pane she de na tanda nang chue le de kan ji de yo me da nang chue le ne nyam ne so so chi da ba je ne che na kan che ko yo me da da tanda so so sam la so so la tos ka nga che de o da di da nyam do dong le che da o da di je 당은 저 샤라즈는 가봉가 단에 어디 되게 가든이 뭐여서 되게 전에 어떤 거 되게 전에 날디 라이딩 나트니게 냠뇨다 와서 또 셰데 어디 줄고 전에 인산들라다 가든 정보다 어디 지기해서 돼.
So Geshe Palden said that ultimately it's same, all the traditions, ultimately it's the same goal, ultimately all of traditions emphasize on reducing the afflictive emotions, overcoming the afflictive emotions, delusions. All of them emphasize, trying to achieve, temporary and ultimate happiness, And so in that sense, there's no differences, But of course, each teachers has, different way of presenting it, And so there's the differences, traditionally, because each leader of different tradition who founded different traditions, their presentations of the same Dharma might be slightly different. And so therefore, in their presentations in terms of, the lineage, from which teacher to which teacher was passed, that lineage, there's difference in that lineage. Up to a certain lineage is the same, but after a certain time, the lineage kind of become a little bit different, When it come from the Buddha, then it's the same lineage. But after some time, then there's different lineage, comes, and that happens even in Gelug, sometimes there is a different lineage, so that there is the different in that lineage. And because also, each teacher might have slightly different, same realization, but slightly different experience in having that realization. And according to that, again, that might be a slightly difference in that time, even though everyone is realizing emptiness, but the way they experience might be slightly different sometimes. And so then again, how they share that. So through that, there might be a little bit difference, but otherwise, ultimately, they are same. And in terms of his personal, even though he started with a Kagyu lineage, but he studied more into Gelug lineage most of his life. And whatever he understand or he have learned and he's able to understand and teach is more coming from that, because that's where he studied more. And because he having studied so many years in that lineage, whenever he has some challenges, difficulties, to be able to use those what he have studies, to deal with those whatever negative emotions, challenges that one might encounter, and to face that with different way of analyzing, different way of thinking, different way of overcoming that. And that comes through what he has studies with those 5 great scriptures, or text that is. And in that sense, then of course he feel a little more close in that. I used to tease him, He used to say, he's non-sectarian. Then I used to tease him, Well, you can say you are not sectarian, but when you go to the Kagyu, they will say you smell geluk. They will not accept you. And when you come to geluk, they will say you smell Kagyu. And then when you go to Nyingma, they will say you smell geluk and Kagyu. So you don't belong to any of them. So I used to tease him, just tease him, just. And that is what they also other monasteries used to teach us in Serache monks and the monasteries. Serache founders. His father was Nyingma Lama, great Nyingma Mahasiddhi, practitioner of Hayagriva. And so not a Sera founder, but Serache founder. Okay, and so in Serache, we do the Hayagriva, but it's actually Nyingma, it's a very Nyingma practice. Like Devon Ganden, they don't do that, But in Sera, even Serame doesn't do that. Serache, that is our Idam, our deity, and that. And so some other monasteries, they say, you smell Nyingma. Serache smell Nyingma, so they used to sometimes tease like that, So sometimes I tease him like that. Okay, I think. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience, for listening for our garbage. Thank you, giving your time. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.